Okay, hello. This is Frater Ralph with Hermetic Temple Radio, and we're going to start out with a fun little ditty here.
Welcome to Showbiz, baby. Welcome to Showbiz, mom. Welcome to Showbiz, baby. Gee, you're gonna have, girl, you'll have lots of fun.
Well, welcome. This is Frater Ralph. We have had some technical difficulties here, and I think it's weather related. We've got storms moving through, and our rural internet is provided by a dish of satellites, a collection of satellite dishes in Ozark, Missouri, and I think they are experiencing some extremely bad weather at this moment, so our signals just are not getting out. I tried to get online here for our 11:11 meditation practice and could not get the microphone to work, could not get the music to do its thing, and just kind of lost connection there for quite a few times. I'm not too sure how long this connection will remain stable, but we are just going to persevere and work with it. So I trust that most of you have done your 11:11 meditation. What I'm going to do in this broadcast is to talk a little bit about posture in meditation, and then also to share a word on another topic. This is one that's rather new to me, but something that is at the same time near and dear to our hearts here at Temple of the Infinite Universe. And that is to give a brief word on a new scientific theory about the infinite universe. The idea, the understanding, I think it's been around for maybe 2, 3, 5 years. I don't know how long. It's something I'm just now picking up on. But the understanding that the universe itself might be eternal. And there are some cosmologists that have been doing some serious work on this question that feel that this may in fact be the case. That when we're talking about the universe, we're not talking about a universe, we're talking about a multiverse. And we're not talking about something that had a definite beginning and that will someday have a definite end. But we're talking about a rather complex quantum system, which I do not even pretend to fully understand yet. But we have a system that may, in and of itself, be eternal. So those are going to be my two topics for today, and then we'll end this program, and hopefully we'll be up to full functioning speed tomorrow for our 11:11 broadcast. But to start off with, I'd like to offer a word about posture in meditation. We had a question that was brought up, the other day. I was talking about breathing in meditation, and somebody asked the question, okay, you talked about having good posture. Now, does this mean that when I meditate I have to maintain a strong, rigid posture throughout my practice of meditation? And I would have to say, from my point of view, that answer is no. There are certain schools that teach that you should start out your meditation with a good meditation posture. And for some of these teachers, they recommend, or they actually strongly teach, that it has to be the lotus position. And you have to keep your back straight, and you have to keep your chin kind of tilted a little bit forward and be breathing in through your nose, and you have to maintain that rigid position throughout the course of your meditation session. And I am not that rigid in my teaching. Excuse me. I follow the lead, actually, of one of my favorite meditation teachers, Ajahn Brahm of the Buddhist Society of Western Australia. And he is rather loose and informal in a lot of his teachings. And he operates from the school, whatever works for you, that do, pretty much. He offers guidelines, he offers suggestions, but when it comes to, rigid, dogmatic practices, his favorite line is that, in Buddhism we teach the middle way. And that is, not too strict, not too hard, not too soft, not too loose and flexible, but we try to maintain a balance between the two and have that middle way. Now here at Temple of the Infinite Universe, while we are not strictly Buddhist, we do practice, that middle way, that understanding that we have different energies in the universe, and we have to come into balance. We think more or less along the line of polarities and balancing polarities. But it's very similar and works pretty much in harmony with the Buddhist teaching about there being a middle way. And so when it comes to something like meditation posture, we do not get dogmatic. What I recommend is that in the beginning, when you're first doing your deep breathing, and when you're getting into your mantra chanting, if you follow that practice of mantra chanting for a while you are breathing, yes, focus on a good posture in meditation. And, when you do your deep breathing, if your back is straight, if your shoulders are up straight, and chin, just slightly dipped forward a little bit, and your eyes closed, it's easy to really relax, and it's easier to breathe in deeply, to expand your lungs more fully. If you're slouched, it's hard to get your lungs to expand fully. But if you're sitting up straight, got a good meditation posture going on, you're comfortable, and it's easier to get your lungs properly inflated and to do your deep breathing. And then after that, you naturally then are able to go into your mantra chanting, your mantra meditation. But then, after that, and here we're talking about probably the first 5 minutes of meditation, maybe some might carry it on for another 5 or 10 minutes after that. But after you've gotten relaxed, after you've gotten comfortable doing your deep breathing and your mantra chanting, let yourself go after that and allow your body to just do what it naturally wants to do during your practice of meditation. Let go and just let the universal energy move through you and allow your body to assume whatever position this universal energy deems is beneficial to your bodily healing and rejuvenation. Again, this comes from Ajahn Brahm. When he, through his years of teaching meditation, he noticed that when people started meditation with him, they would start out in that strict, nice, full lotus position, back straight, and chin dipped forward a little bit, and hands clasped in their laps with thumbs touching, and your basic Buddhist meditation posture. But then after they got into it, about 10, 15 minutes, he'd be watching and he'd notice some of his students would slip out of that strict meditation posture, and their bodies would just be bending and beginning to move in just kind of weird positions. And I think he even used the expression, some of his students would begin to bend themselves almost like pretzels. Perhaps it's kind of an overstatement there, but slight exaggeration. But I think you get the idea that there was some energy at work that was causing these meditation students to alter their bodily position and do it, without even knowing that they were doing it. And then when they came out of the meditation state, he would notice that, his students would sometimes be a little surprised to find that they were in that particular position that they were in. And after years of observing this and talking to his students, Ajahn Brahm came to the conclusion that some people bend in these certain ways because that is the position that their bodies have to assume in order for energy to be channeled to specific areas of the body, and in order for the blood flow to be increased at these certain bodily points. Because some of his students, after they came out of the meditation state, would begin to say, I had a weird warming sensation at the small of my back, or perhaps in some other part of the body, an arm or a leg. And Ajahn Brahm would ask them the question, when did you injure that part of your body? And just totally stepping out on a guess. And the students would be surprised. How did you know I sustained an injury in that part of my body? And he gave the answer, that is how the universal energy is working through you. That is how your body is working to heal itself. That when you get into a relaxed meditative state where, you're just letting go, you're getting yourself out of the way, and you're just allowing your body and the universe to naturally do what it needs to do in order to facilitate healing, well, then that is what will happen. Your body will just start bending and redirecting its position and its posture in such a way that this energy, this circulation, however you want to explain it, will be increased, and the body will just naturally do what it needs to do in order to speed up and facilitate healing in certain areas of the body. Now, of course, if you are dogmatic about posture and maintaining a strict posture from start to finish, and if you have a meditation teacher that even walks around with a yardstick or a cane and whacks you on the back every time you fall out of posture, you are going to be in too strict of control to allow the universe to move and work through you. And you are not going to be getting yourself out of the way and allowing the universe to work through you and in you in a more beneficial way. And so what Ajahn Brahm recommends, and I'm a long distance student of the Ajahn. He's in Australia, we're in the Midwest, but over the years I've listened to numerous of his teachings via the internet, and he is just outstanding. And just following that lead, that's the teaching that I myself have followed. Start out in a good meditative posture, but at some point in time, you have to let go and just let stuff happen. Get yourself out of the way and let the universe do its thing. And I believe the universe is going to work in ways that are positive to your spiritual and physical growth and your mental expansion. So that's it on posture and meditation. Don't be too strict. Start out in a way that's good and beneficial for you to do your deep breathing and do your chanting. But then at some point, close your eyes, relax, and just get out of the way. Let stuff happen. I'm going to take a short little musical break. This is another song by the Hollywood Drunks. I haven't used their music in a long time, and I thought, since we are only limited to very short songs here, meaning about, 4 minutes or less, I'm going to play this song for you, and then I'll come back on a little discussion about the infinite universe.
I'm at that age where people I know suddenly die for no reason at all. I'm at that age where people I know suddenly stop returning my calls. I'm at that age where people I know are on to their second wife and third dog. I'm at that age where people I know seem to have nowhere else to fall. But that's okay, we'll be fine. We're just getting better. But that's alright, we're still cool. We're just getting better. On my way to follow, there's nothing else to borrow. Wherever we can go to, as long as we can last. Tomorrow's just the past. I'm at that age where people I know seem to have trouble remembering names. I'm at that age where people I know tell those stories that all sound the same. I'm at that age where people I know seem to have nowhere else to hide. I'm at that age where people I know are trying to get on with their lives. But that's okay, we'll be fine. We're just getting better. But that's alright, we're still cool. We're just getting better. On my way to follow, there's nothing else to borrow. Wherever we can go to, as long as we can last. Tomorrow's just the past. Parking enforcement, your work so important. For the working enforcement, your work so
right, that was the Hollywood Drunks. Kind of an interesting group to be using in the course of a podcast on meditation and spiritual topics, but I kind of like that group. So now, what are we going to talk about now? The infinite universe. When we first were picking out names, I mean, my wife and I have been working on this ecumenical, non-denominational spiritual outreach since 2007. And over the course of those many years, we have, been asking ourselves, okay, what's a good name? And the first name we hit upon was St. Francis Place, which seemed good to me, coming out of a Catholic background, and then later we shifted to more of a ecumenical Christian non-denominational background. But then as it became more and more obvious that, we were going to be working not just with Christians, but with people from every spiritual tradition, every religious tradition, and even, people who had no spiritual tradition or religious tradition, and even atheists. We felt the need to really open up, and I thought, much as I adore St. Francis, he has been one of my favorite saints from early childhood. I just felt that having this sort of an outreach named after St. Francis was too restrictive and would give people the wrong idea about our overall mission, that we're not just about, Catholicism, we're not just about Christianity, we're about opening things up to everybody. And so, over the course of a few years, my wife hit upon the name that at first I thought was kind of silly, but something that kind of sank in and began to make sense to me, and something I kind of grew to like: Temple of the Infinite Universe. And it was at that same time that began my serious studies of Hermetic texts and hermetically inspired texts like the Kabbalion. And I just felt that this fit, and I can't really explain why. I mean, sometimes we just do things because it feels right. And that may sound kind of silly, but the way I try to understand this and explain this is that we're mystics. We don't always do things for a good logical reason. We do it because it feels right. We do it because we can grok it. We do it because it feels from a heartfelt level like the right thing to do. And more importantly, we do it because we honestly feel that this is what Spirit is guiding us and directing us to do. So, over the course of about 7 years, we shifted away from St. Francis Place, and we had a few other names that we tried out and didn't feel were right. And then we got to Temple of the Infinite Universe, which is now our legal corporate name. We're a registered nonprofit in the state of Missouri. And when people asked, even up to last year, why Temple of the Infinite Universe? Logically, I had a hard time giving a good explanation for it. But it's, right now, I can explain it like this. We feel that the universe, in its totality, something that folks will, from a scientific point of view, something folks will call the multiverse. It is infinite. And there is just something inside of me that says this universe is eternal. Perhaps not absolutely eternal, but eternal enough, I mean just so huge, so boundless, so unlimited, that from our finite perspective as physical beings, it is pretty darned eternal. And I just accepted that without any scientific reason, without any good logical reason, just because this is what we felt to be true. And it does go along with a lot of the mystical teachings from a great number of different religious and spiritual traditions. Now, last night, I got into a minor discussion with one of my Twitter friends about the universe being limited. And, we're talking about eternity and whatnot, and this person was saying, well, the universe itself, it will have an eventual end. It may take billions of years to happen, but the theory that this person was operating under stated that the universe had a definite beginning. We don't know exactly why it began. Call it the Big Bang, call it the hand of God. But it had a definite beginning, and it will expand, continue to expand, until all the stars, all the planets are just so far removed from one another that the entire universe will eventually suffer a cold death. And all the heat, all the energy, all the stuff that makes the universe tick will just gradually fizzle out. And that's the way the universe is going to end. Not with a bang, not with a whimper, but with a fizzle. And I got thinking about that, and I thought there was just something inside of me. It was not a fear of death. It's not, perhaps it could be, my years of Catholic training and mystical practice, but something said, no, that just doesn't seem right to me. And when I start trying to understand, opinions of other people, and also start to try to understand some of my own opinions, I like to know from, even though I'm not a scientist, I like to be able to try to figure out, what modern science is saying about this. So I began to Google the question, is the universe eternal? Will it go on forever? Just using that search word, is the universe eternal? And I hit upon a modern cosmologist, a Dr. Alan Guth, who has come to that conclusion, and he's not alone. There are other cosmologists, too, that feel that the universe is eternal. And I'll get into a little bit of an explanation in a few minutes, as best an explanation as I can offer with my limited understanding at this point. But the problem that arises, from a theistic understanding, from the understanding that there is a God, a creator God, that if you show that the universe is eternal, the problem is, where does that leave God? There is no longer, according to modern cosmology, a need for God. At least it would seem on the surface. And if you reason this out to its logical conclusion, like a good Vulcan, you begin to understand that if the universe is eternal, then the universe itself becomes a sort of a god. And that's how some people today understand their higher power. It's the universe, the multiverse. They understand the whole of creation as being their higher power or their God. And how does that fit with what we teach here at Temple of the Infinite Universe? Well, I'm still in the beginning phases of contemplating this. But to me, this fits rather nicely with what we have been teaching over the past several years. Namely, from the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew chapter 25, the verse that goes, "Whatsoever you do to the least, that you do to me." That's one of our key texts in understanding the divine, understanding our relationship to the divine, and understanding our relationship with one another and with the universe as a whole. According to this "whatsoever you do to the least of these" understanding, that however you treat a dog or a cat or your fellow human being reflects back on how you treat the divine, God, Goddess, however you want to understand the source of all. And in that understanding, if the divine is present, truly present, mystically present in a way that we cannot fully logically understand, but in a way that we can grok, if the divine is present in every little thing, however great or however small, then isn't it logical to assume that God and the universe, or the multiverse, are one, that it's all connected, that everything is very intimately connected, that you cannot take God and put him or her, it, into a box and say this is separate from everything else. And nor can you take the universe and separate it from the divine and say, put it in this kind of a little box and say, this is separate from God. That, according to our views, is just wrong. It's not the full or the fuller truth. That God is one with the universe is one with God, and it's so intimately connected that even, however you treat an ant reflects back on how you are treating the divine. It is all entangled. It's all interconnected. And so when we're dealing with a theory, and that's all it is at this point, it's a theory, that the universe is eternal, from a mystical point of view, if you believe in an eternal source of all things, an eternal creator, so to speak, an eternal God or Goddess, then would it not make sense to think of the creation that the Creator creates? Could that not be eternal? When we're thinking about things like time, we are trapped, for the most part, in a linear understanding of the progression of time. We're like little kids that are writing a report on a famous person in grade school. If you've ever done a report like that, you kind of remember how those things panned out. We'd say, okay, this famous person was born on such and such a date. They did this, they did this, they did this, and then they died. The end. And I had a third grade teacher that was trying to teach us to write a little bit better, and she said, no. You're all following this same linear pattern. That, this person was born, this person did this, and then this person died, the end. Try to get your mind out of that box. And she didn't use those exact words because we were only in third grade, for crying out loud, but I can now understand where she was coming from. She was trying to get us out of the mind trap of linear thought. And when it comes to time, the linear model is what we Westerners tend to use. Now, the Mayans, in the creation of the Mayan calendar, and our Eastern brothers and sisters, the whole Hindu understanding of the system of the yugas, progression of the ages, it's not a linear progression of time that they deal with. Time is secular. Time goes around in cycles. It has what you might call a beginning point, and then it goes through its cycle. Sometimes it's a short cycle. Sometimes it's an extremely long cycle. But everything repeats. You know, we have that saying in the West, history repeats. Seems different every time, but history repeats. And in the Eastern understanding of secular time or non-linear time, we don't have a set beginning and we don't have a set end. And that's a little bit about this theory of the eternal universe, how that kind of pans out according to Alan Guth. That when you get to a point like the Big Bang, where everything is packed into, almost a singularity, and then that singularity expands. When you get to the point of like a singularity, you are dealing with so much heat, so much power, so much energy, that our contemporary understanding of physics just breaks down. And you just have to, even time itself is no longer understandable to us. And if we're trapped in that linear understanding of time where the universe had a definite beginning and will have a definite end, we're forgetting all about that singularity, that point where physics breaks down, that point where time breaks down, that point where you are not left with linear time, and you may not even be left with secular time. You're left with a state that is timeless, a state where none of our understandings really work very well, a state that you might call eternity or infinity. And according to this theory, or one of these theories, this is more multifaceted than I can explain at this point, but Alan Guth was saying that according to his understanding of the universe, it is quite possible that it all started from a singular, I think that'd be the right word, but a singular bubble universe that existed eternally, did not have a beginning, and will not have an end. And at some point in the whole realm of cause and effect and evolution of things and developments of things, this universe began to create other bubble universes. And this is where the theory of the multiverse comes in. That according to their mathematics and their current understandings, that it is conceivable, in theory, to have a bubble universe that is essentially eternal, is essentially what we might call a divine god, goddess, divine source of sorts, a sourceless source, a source that has no beginning, will have no end, but can reproduce itself either through natural laws, physical laws, or just because of its own will and desire to procreate. But we have this eternal bubble universe, which I guess you can call the primordial egg, the source of everything else, that just splits off and creates other bubble universes. And these other bubble universes then become, from a spiritual perspective, the equivalent of children of the divine, or sons and daughters of God. And I think you can kind of see where I'm going with this, if we understand the universe as being divine, eternal, infinite, then all these other bubble universes that come off of this primary bubble universe, then for all intents and purposes are sons and daughters of the Most High God, as the Psalm says, and as the mystical teachings of many different traditions go. And the teaching then becomes that the universe that we're living in is not the primary bubble universe that started everything out. From our perspective, we're a bubble universe that had a beginning, splitting off of the bubble universe that had no beginning. And from our perspective, that birth where we split off from one of these bubble universes, and our bubble universe had its beginning, to us, that seems like the Big Bang. Seems like the point where everything began, and everything began to expand, and everything will, for reasons I don't yet fully understand, continue to expand eternally in the future direction. But again, when we understand things from a non-linear perspective of time, we understand that this progression of past into present into future is not necessarily rock solid, not under all conditions, and that this will just keep right on going and going and going and going, world without end, amen, as one of the Catholic prayers I was raised with states. Only it's not world without end, it's universes without end. So how I understand this from a theistic point of view is that this challenges me to look beyond the view of God I was raised with. In the beginning, not the beginning of the universe or the multiverse, but the beginning of Ralph Lindenberger here. I was raised with the understanding that God was this guy sitting up in the sky with a long white beard, looking down on everything, keeping track of everything we did, keeping score, and trying to decide, okay, where is this one going to end up, heaven or hell? And over the years, as my spirituality has grown, as my understanding of cosmology has grown, I've been challenged to leave that view of the divine behind. The divine isn't just some anthropomorphic old man or old woman in the sky, but it is a collection of entities, we might say, a huge collection of stuff and things and no things, stuff and non-stuff, just a wide, many-faceted jewel that is just so mind-boggling big that it's very difficult for us to get our mind around it. The divine is not just one old man sitting up in the sky, but an entire primal universe which at some point in time decided to get creative and gave birth to the multiverse that science is only now beginning to admit exists. So that's what we're about here at Temple of the Infinite Universe. On this topic, I do not pretend to have all the answers. At this point, I don't even think I've got all the questions. And I'm just trying to understand this as best I can and relate that understanding. But if it does turn out to be confirmed by other cosmologists that the universe is infinite, that the universe is eternal, without beginning, I mean the multiverse itself, without clear beginning, that there is a kernel that has been around for infinity, then I don't think that really does away with the theistic understanding of God. Not per se. It definitely challenges it. But if we have an understanding of God as being the divine that is one with the multiverse, always has been one, always will be, that challenges us to, yes, leave behind that humanized anthropomorphic view of God or goddess as either the old man in the sky or the old woman in the sky. And it challenges us to broaden our ability to try to perceive and to take in, to broaden our definition of the divine. And perhaps even leave behind all attempts to define the divine. Because if the universe is eternal, infinite, a divine being in and of itself, at one with the divine being in and of itself, then we are dealing with something that is just indefinable, at least for the common mind, like mine. And we are wasting our time trying to define God or the divine source, and instead should spend our time more productively allowing this divine source to define us. So, I don't know if I've confused a lot of our listeners, enraged some, but that's pretty much how I've begun to see things here. And that's a little better explanation as to why we hit upon that idea. Temple of the Infinite Universe. This is a spiritual outreach organized along hermetic lines, not opposed to science, not opposed to, to sound reason and clarity, not opposed to particle quantum physics. May not understand it, but that's no reason to oppose it. But we are open to a wide variety of outlooks, of worldviews. And we believe in incorporating the best into our understanding of things. And as understanding changes and shifts, we attempt to non-dogmatically grow with it. And we here at Temple of the Infinite Universe, it is one of our goals, one of our struggles, one of the things that we do is to try to honor the divine in all of his, her, and its manifestations, which, from the viewpoint of an infinite, eternal universe, is beyond astronomical and beyond mind-boggling. And it's a full-time job in and of itself. So I'm going to leave you here with that thought. Now, if you would like to, if you like what you hear on these broadcasts and would like to support Temple of the Infinite Universe, we are taking root in Wheatland, Missouri. We are in the process of arranging financing to buy land. It seems like we've been involved in this process for quite some time, but if you'd like to help out that effort, visit our website, www.hermetictemple.com, and feel free to donate any money that you can or anything that you feel is right. And we will definitely appreciate your support. And until later, thanks for tuning in. We will see you around the infinite universe at a later date. And may you have a blessed day of spiritual discovery. I'm going to close out with this one song by Liamkins called Countryside. Until later, thank you.
Countryside, it's rising with the sun. That's another life you may discover, with its beauty, troubles, and real fun. That's another life you may discover, with its beauty, troubles, and real fun. Can you hear tally-ho and merry laughter? Smell the spirit, nature, and sincere. Ask me, here are those the kids take after, and they'll answer, people living here. Ask me, here are those the kids take after, and they'll answer, people living here. Ooh, yeah. Crowded streets will never ease your mind. For such a game I feel no inclination. Wanna buy a home in the countryside. For such a game I feel no inclination. Wanna buy a home in the countryside. Countryside, it's rising with the sun. On the road, I'm just a lonely rover, searching for a stay when the day's dawn. On the road, I'm just a lonely rover, searching for a stay when the day's dawn.